What's up, guys? This is Alex and Bobby, and we want to make a video today to talk about a bunch of different stuff. We've gone through a myriad of experience and learning over the last 5 to 7 years together, and I thought Alex would be a lot of fun to talk to just about everything that's going on. Just for you know, young folks. When I say young, I mean 30 is still young. We're both in our early 30s, but we just see tons of changes going on in the job space with cryptocurrency, digital art, and just online as a whole. And we wanted to just bring some just info and just stuff we've learned from, managing leading people, working in a fast growing organization, and just all this stuff going on technologically wise. But Alex, man, give a hello and give an introduction, man. I'm glad we could chat today.
Absolutely, man. It's good to be here. I'm just really excited. I think that both of us have obviously been on quite the ride over the years. I think actually today is my 6 year anniversary with Madwire. So that would mean
Nice.
like we met pretty much 6 years ago, and through that, obviously working together on the same team, me being my director, and then growing together and finding two beautiful women to be willing enough to be our wives, and you marrying me and Alyssa. I think that it's been an amazing experience, and I just have so much respect for you. And I think that we're two people that have, over the course of these last couple decades specifically, just really see a lot that is changing and is very different. And just both of us, just I think, have so much excitement for the future. So this is
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
absolutely. Well, tell me what's been on your mind like over the last like month or two. Just I know we've been in this pandemic crap for like almost a year now, but what's been on your mind like most recently now that we're moving up to the 1 year mark that would be like some good stuff to dive into?
I think first and foremost, like, wow, yeah, just the amount of shock that we're still in this pandemic, and dealing with that is insane. But for me, like, specifically, I would say probably within the last 6 months, for me, with like the birth of my daughter, and uh, being able to be in a position where I'm working from home, for almost a year now, and uh, the election, and having an opportunity to kind of really be in that moment and kind of get in my groove. It's actually been an incredible opportunity, and I'm super super grateful for that, because I know that this has just been trying experience for everybody. And the fact that I've had so much good come out of it, I just feel super fortunate for that. And
Yeah.
so, like, that's just really for me, like the fact that I'm still working, the fact that I can, be at home, spend extra time around the house and see my daughter grow, spend extra time with my wife, uh, be around my kitchen, and be able to eat healthier and spend less money. And I think just slow down a little bit. I mean, obviously we're still super busy, but the reality is I'm not having to run around all over the place as much. Run out the door, go to the office, come in the door, stress from work. Like, I'm definitely more grounded than I've ever been, and I feel like that's opened my eyes so much to just being excited about the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I've felt the same. Like I've had a lot of time to just, be at home, be present with my wife, learn a lot of lessons about being around each other 24 hours a day. I think that's kind of a first in a generation typically where people have done that. But also just trying to make an opportunity to, be intentional to work out more. And while a lot of people view it as bad, like working at home and, you know, having when you end your work day, you're still at home. I kind of view it completely differently. And me and you are like the silver lining kings, I feel like, within the
Yeah.
organization over the last like 8 years. And the way I've kind of viewed it is this is an opportunity to learn how to kind of just separate yourself from the environment you're in, because a lot of people view it as like bad, like, oh, I have to work at home and then stay at home and I don't get to separate the two. And I'm just like, that's kind of feeble minded in my opinion. The way I like to think of it is I have an opportunity to like make one environment like everything for myself, and it kind of forces me to like think, where can I go to like work out, where can I go to have my second or third place. Like typically Starbucks, they've always said your home, your workplace, and then what's a third place for people. Like Starbucks has always taken pride in that, and it used to be Starbucks. Now it's really like, what's your second place? And it's just a mindset shift for a lot of people. And I'd hope
Yep.
that, this can be like a positive encouragement for people to think like, how can you make your home like more well-rounded, and what can you
Mhm.
do to like put yourself, outdoors more, work out more, like these things that can like stimulate you, whether it be like being closer with family, growing with your wife, like educating yourself, working out, whatever that may be. But yeah, i'm I'm thrilled for the future and the ability to do this. And I think before this call we were talking a little bit about the sovereign individual in that book. I just started reading it. It was written in 1996, and it talks a lot about like microprocessors and the change it's going to have on the world. And it broke down a lot of different things, how we went from a hunter-gatherer society to an agricultural society, then to like a production and industrial society, and now we're in the information age. So the information age, what it's doing is it's dematerializing uh, organizations and just different things. So like the workplace, like we've seen it at Madwire, we went from having 1 to 2 buildings, excuse me, down to one. And now like less than 40-50% of the people show up to the building and we're working from home. And a lot of companies are doing that too. And you're kind of forced, if you really want to be a futurist and be prepared for the future and have the ability to be impactful in the future marketplace, you do need to kind of put yourself in uncomfortable situations and work from home, because it very well could be that a lot of jobs do end up from home.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. Um, it's been very interesting because I know that myself, and I think just overall the culture of where we work, I've thrived, around people. It is
Yeah.
something that I think has made it special for a very long time. And we were first kind of put into that situation where we were working from home. It was very hard for me mentally at first, but
Yeah.
the reality is like you have to survive, right? And I'm just the type of person, and I think we both are, where it's like you are going to figure out a way to make it work. And I really like your point of, figuring out how to make your home those places that you're used to having. So it's like, how do you turn home into an office, a home that you live in and you relax in and you spend time with your family in? How do you create an atmosphere where you can exercise, go outside, and really still thrive in this environment that we're in? And it's it's been really cool, I think, to have that challenge for me as well. And it's given me a lot of time for my mind as well, because the truth is that you naturally have less time when you're always going and going and going, trying to get into the office. I mean, you cut out, even living close to the office, you're cutting out probably at least a half hour a day, and that's a half hour where you could just be still and you can think, and spend time on gratitude and things like that. And so I agree with you. I mean, we're both on that same page of just like, this is the future. It opens up a lot of opportunities for companies, right? Because financially, if you can provide an atmosphere where people can be working from home, like you're saving tons of money on commercial real estate. So why not? You know?
One thing too, whenever you were reiterating that point, I started thinking about how in a high production position, like whether you be a developer who's working on 3 to 4 different projects at once, or you're salesperson who needs to hit quota, or you manage, 10 clients and one of them's tough and you got to bounce back and move on to the next one. It makes me think of compartmentalization of your mind,
Mm.
because you said like sharpening your mind. And I think about that in the home. Like I've got my loft here that I just turned into my office because we're making a baby nursery. And then the
Yeah.
basement is where I have my sauna and my gym. Our living room is where we relax. Our where we have dinner is like one specific area, and like compartmentalizing your home. And it sounds kind of silly, but it's the same thing you do with your mind. You have to be able to compartmentalize things that are going on. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. Like I was looking at data of like young kids who aren't in school. There's like over 3 million kids who have not been in school since March. And there's like a very quiet rise that the news doesn't talk about, of like, self-harm and children committing suicide, and these kids that either a their parents just don't know how to make like the internet like such a fun tool. I don't know. I'm not a parent yet, so I can't just sit here and say cast judgment. But my thought is, if I'm in this situation and I see my kids hurting, I'm like, how can you like make almost a curriculum for your child to watch like YouTube videos, or like get them something like, what can I do to just help my kid get through this? And a lot of it, I'm sure children are not even talking about, like, what kind of kid knows how to articulate those feelings to their mom and dad unless they just have a really tight relationship, right? But
Yep.
knowing these things are going on, it's like it makes me want to be proactive, considering I have a child on the way and you have a kid, to not only help them, but also like, who's to say I won't feel that way? Like when the pandemic started, I was like, I could very well be depressed in 6 months. What can I do to not be that way? Because it usually takes me longer to be impacted by these like quote unquote like bad things. I'm just emotionally like okay with what happens to a fault until maybe it's too late. Sometimes it's a strength, a lot of times it can be a weakness, but I just think about that for myself and like others, and just like, what can we do to prepare? Like what are your thoughts on that, just if this does go on for another year, like what do you think like people could do that are maybe challenged going through this?
Yeah, I think that it's been such a reminder of how just like fragile things are, you know? Um, and I appreciate that because it's very easy to get comfortable. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that things were very, very good for a long time. And, we were seeing technology improvements, the economy was growing. We were seeing, we were both in a great position with our company and stuff like that. And you kind of forget that things are super fragile, and anything could happen at any given time. And what this does is it puts us in a situation where we can gain perspective, because when things get crazy, the best thing that you can do is to get back to the basics, right? Get back to the basics, because we very well might still be in this situation for a very long time, um, I pray every day that we're going to get there as quick as possible, back to some normalcy. But if we aren't, the best thing to do is to get back to the basics, right? And I think that's super hard sometimes for people to do, because we are kind of bombarded with technology and stimulation and temptation and all these different things, more than ever. And when you're constantly bombarded with that, it's very easy to always be seeking those kinds of things, because you need that dopamine spike, right? And so like staying still, relaxing, focusing on more natural things like exercise,
Do you think we need a
not
social media fasting? Do you think we should make a social
potentially.
media fasting holiday or something to like shock the brain almost in a way, like when you shock the body?
I don't think that that would be a bad idea realistically, because some people can handle it and some people can't, and I would say there's probably more that can't than can. And I think that would be something that's super helpful. I mean, right now, why not? I mean, we talk about fasting with food. We talk about, not eating meat. There's all these different things that people do to kind of, get back to the basics. That might not be a bad idea, because you need to spend time having conversations with the people you love. You need to make dinner, and cook, stay still, write your thoughts down, write in a journal, like, yeah, yeah, turn on some music, put on your
Yeah,
headphones and
dude.
exercise, sweat a little bit, stuff like
You
that.
know, there was something my wife was telling me about the other day, and she was talking about like a study. We listened to it at work. I think it was a TED talk. A woman was saying like, if you think stress is going to kill you, scientifically it will. Like data shows that if you think that way, it's going to happen. What you think becomes your outcome. Like people that say, if you visualize be a millionaire, and you absolutely will. Whatever you think is going to happen to you likely will. You bring it into fruition. But Jan kind of flipped it on its head when she was talking to me about this other thing, but it had to do with people eating certain foods. Like, so they served like a protein shake or something to two different sets of people. One group, they told them it was a healthy shake. The other one, they told them it was a sweet milkshake with ice cream. Their body processed it like it was a milkshake with ice cream. Like it processed it slower. It absorbed it differently, like in not as great of a way. And it just goes to serve like the power of the brain. So if we are going to say like, maybe it would be good to have like a mental fast from social media, kind of like we do food. It's like our brain is what processes food. My father even
Mhm.
told me once, his doctor, because he makes shakes and he would turn them into like liquid. His doctor was like, your brain actually absorbs food differently because, water is water. It absorbs into your muscles in your body. We're 98% water or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
but the thing is he said, you want to have shakes, you want there to be texture, you want to chew it because it tells your brain there's nutrients in here. It's not just biologically water. So I find that really interesting, like the impact our brain has not only on, what unfolds in our life in the physical, but like in the physical world, but also like mentally, like what goes on internally that we don't necessarily see and the impact it has on us as people.
Yes. Yes, because we don't realize this, and this is something I've gotten super nerded out on during this whole like pandemic and dealing with being stuck at home and everything. But um, we don't realize that the constant stimulation that we're getting, it makes it so that our bodies don't process that kind of stuff as naturally. So like you need more. It's almost like porn, right? Like that's what we're doing is we're stimulating our brains and our feelings and our emotions like constantly with that like that gratification that we get from all of the things that we're constantly being bombarded with. And so things
Yeah.
like deep conversation or exercise or a really good meal, like the basic things in life don't bring us as much joy because we're just using it all the time, and we don't, like, our brain is just like, this isn't doing it for me, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, it's interesting when you bring that up. I was in a clubhouse room the other day and all these people were talking about psychedelics. And I think they were talking
Yeah.
about iboga is the name of it. And how like, you know, obviously acid, whenever I think it was Alexander Shulgin, if I don't, it's been like 10, 15 years since I've paid attention to psychedelics, but he was the one who created I believe acid. I don't want to have to Google it, but someone will correct me. But he whenever he made it and we discovered like the impact it has, that's how we started really understanding like dopamine and how it works and just how the brain responds to stimulus. And it's interesting for like those who've done it are always saying like they go back to the basics. Like you hear like Steve Jobs, did acid and like had these epiphanies, and it has to do with like simplicity in the products we make, like just being simple, like getting back with like mother nature and like connecting with God and all of these different things. And you know the like the reliance we have on like our nation state and just these handout UBI checks that the world's giving. People are just sitting here like, oh, you know, I need this. Like I'm waiting for my $1,200 when those people need it. It's not to say we can stop doing that. We're already so far into the system. But then there's
Mhm.
people who have made good decisions and they're sitting here just giving value, giving information away. Like Gary Vee, for instance, was always just trying to give people alpha. He was telling people about collector cards years ago. And it's
Mhm.
just people aren't taking action for oneself because of the reliance on whether it be social, whether it be, the government for the handout, whether it be like, expectation for a job, like when you apply for a job. You don't just sit back and wait for someone to call. You hammer the hell out of them until you get the job you want. You differentiate yourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest things that young people can do, like just to like, break free, and not only just, do these things to kind of sedate your mind from these highs and lows, like Samson and JB at work, they're always saying reality is not as good as it seems or as bad as it seems. It's in the middle. And it's like depression, like these like uppers that, are very popular, like Adderall and all this stuff. It's like reality's in the middle. And it's like, yeah, dude, just cleansing the mind and allowing yourself to kind of get back to these more just simple ways of approaching life and living life. There's a lot of clarity there. And it kind of segues into something that's been on my mind, just to kind of keep this tangent going. But I've been ranting and I rarely get feedback, and I want to hear your thought on this. But I feel like a lot of content online is like very derivative and just very like it's the same thing repeated over and over again. And that's kind of what being an SEO is you've got to write these blogs. And it reminds me of like writing a paper in college, where they say, go write about Christopher Columbus, and the teacher has to read 30 to 50 papers of the same thing. And we're not teaching kids to necessarily be creative. We're teaching them how to write sentences. And one of the things that happened this last week was, and I'm just riffing here, I feel like Kanye, people call him crazy because he's just all over the place, and I'm kind of doing it. But what happened in Texas these last couple of days with the snow, the infrastructure couldn't handle it. And the state had to shut down. People are like, don't turn your power on this side or the other. And the state could have prepared for that. But Peter Thiel, he talks about in 0 to 1 how since the 70s, there's been almost no innovation in our grid. When was the last time we saw a bridge built? When was the last time we saw like a true engineering phenomenal thing be done? Like, we're pouring all this energy into like technology and this information and stuff, and our infrastructure is struggling. And it's like we really need people to get back to critically thinking about solving problems that really matter. Like it bothers me a lot. It frustrates me that the problems we want to solve are creating social media sites. Like, I think it's such like VC bullshit whenever people are like, I want to solve a problem. And it's like, dude, you're just getting people more inundated in the things that cause depression and make them sad. Kind of drives me crazy. So I'll end my riff here and, let you share, but it's real, man.
Yeah, it is real, man. You're completely right. We're all kind of plagiarizing each other constantly online. A lot of the content is the same. So to hit on that first, I agree 100%. And I think that a positive that we could take away from that is that we're all more similar than we realize, right? Everybody they all go after the same light, and there's always that kind of like similarity of like, what is it people want to hear, right? And they're always kind of all finding similar things, and they're grabbing from the same kind of sources. And the people love certain figures, right? Certain people online. There's people that just gain massive amounts of popularity. Like, we're all more similar. We're all kind of recreating the same kind of stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons. Yeah, go ahead.
The positive of that is we can learn far faster too, if you know how to leverage knowledge for personal growth. But continue.
Yeah, 100%. Which is one of the best parts about being alive right now. But I think that's where being genuine, people can pick up on genuine people, and where they kind of are more of like the lone wolf. They kind of do their own thing, or what they're saying is very real, right? They actually have like the backup to it, which is, I think, hard to come by in a digital world, right? Because you have to give people that honesty, and it's really hard to do that in short form, which is one of the reasons why I love like podcasts, and the fact that like we're doing like a video, YouTube, stuff like that, like the more long form where, you know,
Yeah.
people can actually sit down and they can actually have real in-depth conversation about the backstory, right? Because we're really in more of a society of like sound bites and short form, which makes it very easy to copy each other.
Hmm.
So that's that part, you know. And then the other thing that you were talking about with, you know, the thing that's going on with this cold snap, right? And the fact that that has made such a huge impact on the grid, you know, that people were really unprepared for.
Hmm.
It's very unfortunate, you know, that that's the way that things have been for so long. I mean, similar kind of thing happened with the pandemic where, you know, people have been talking about for years and years and years that we should be prepared for something like that. And then when it happened, we weren't, you know, or with the grid, it's like people have been talking about that for a long time too. And then when those kinds of things happen, we're not prepared for it. And it's just,
Yeah.
it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where this is all this stuff is just a constant reminder to me that like things are a lot more fragile than we realize, and we need to be very proactive in everything that we're doing constantly, both from just a personal, like, you know, looking on the inside and really doing some soul searching, but to actively what we're doing each day, right, to help real things that need help, you know, making a difference, right? And all of the things that like I feel like we're behind on because we kind of got too comfortable for such a long time.
Dude. Yeah, like one of the things, like I loved Joe Rogan and Kanye's podcast because Kanye is talking about like changing the way school operates, the way cities are structured, and like all these different things. And I think that's really important just because there's so much money right now, like SPACs. Like I know we've talked about those. Like there's been more money poured into SPACs in the first like 15 days of the year this month than all of like certain years combined. Like it's just there's all this money on the sidelines, especially from the pandemic. You've got people at home not spending. Savings are at an all-time high. I think in Q1 I read on Zero Hedge that paying down credit cards was also at like one of the highs, biggest highs ever. So not only are people hoarding cash, people are paying down credit cards. And we're a debt-based society, mind you. 75% of our GDP is consumer spending. It's gone up even more during the pandemic. So we're so reliant on debt for people to buy things they can't afford. And now all this money is being poured into the market and all these tech companies that I feel like we've got this flashy ball syndrome of just like these multiples that get assigned to companies and people are pouring money into them. And we're not really focusing on the infrastructure that, you know, let's talk about logistics, right? Like with the boom in ecom, like what are we doing to like improve the roads and make logistics better? You know, Elon's doing electric trucks, but like I just feel like, you know, a lot of material is derivative. There's not enough kind of just quiet alone time, like reading books and studying from like the grandfathers of knowledge and the grandmothers of knowledge who wrote about this stuff, you know, 50 to 100 years ago. We were talking about Sovereign Individual from 1996. They wrote about all of these things that are unfolding right now. And I'm just going down this rabbit hole of trying to like sit back, be quiet, that lone wolf, to use your words, and like learn from these people who were talking about this stuff happening and try to build my own mental framework on how to approach the future. And I hope a lot
Yep.
of other young people are doing that. And I feel like at least the people I surround myself with online, they're really like telling people like think for yourself, be a sovereign individual, build a unique skill set, like think differently. The world is really changing. And the unfortunate thing is, it even talks about in the book that those who actually take the time to critically think and realize what's going on, they're going to do incredible. And the
Mhm.
people who don't, I just sadly think of like, you know, the example like from like when the gates of heaven open and people are going to be beating on the door and just say, Lord, let me in. And it's just like, there is no room for you. Like,
Mhm.
and it's just sad. And I was talking to like some buddies on Clubhouse the other day, and that's why I'm compelled to like talk to people I really care about. As I was telling them after a couple whiskeys, I was just like, man, I just want to help my friends like learn about these things. And they were like, Bobby, you just got to shut up, man. These people, they don't even help themselves. And it made me kind of feel twisted because I was like, I don't want to assume that about people. I know you're kind of right. A lot of people write me off, but they were like, they're never going to help themselves. You can't change people. Even my wife told me that. They're like, people have been making these decisions their whole lives.
Mhm.
And it just breaks my heart to know that people I love and care about are just, the ark is leaving without them. That doesn't mean I'm going
Yeah.
to stop though, like women and children, the Titanic's sinking, you guys get on. But it just compels me to take action and to just do whatever I can to help people, because the world's rapidly changing and no one can stop it. It's cool to see
Mhm.
unfold, but it also kind of breaks my heart in some ways.
Yeah, no, well, I think that all of what you're talking about is part of what makes you genuine though, right? Like you're taking the time to pay attention, right? And slow down enough to have a different perspective. And in doing so, you are leaving your hand out, and you're willing to take your experience, right? Who you are, things you've seen, maybe your upbringing, I think is really applicable to you, and things maybe you've personally gone through struggle wise. You're taking all of those different lessons, right, along with what you've done as an adult, right, and as you grew into a man with like working really hard at your craft, and putting in the time to try to build something that you could use to contribute um, at the level of building a family and stuff like that. And you're taking all of those experiences, right, and then you're
Hmm.
applying it to even more things. So like you're accelerating that to a whole future different kind of thing. Like you're building onto that foundation with seeking knowledge, and trying to share that with people with an open hand, regardless of if they're going to take you up on that or not. You're still willing to be selfless and to take that as like, hey guys, like take it as you will, but I'm here to try to help. And I think that that's just amazing, right? And we need more of that. Just I think overall, like help thy neighbor, and being willing, to take genuine people that have been through things, that have created a perspective that not everybody is going to be able to have, but could be helpful to try to us as a human race to that next level. Yeah, I think that's incredible. That's one of the reasons why I love you. But I think that that's important. We all need to do that. Anybody that has any sort of experience that they've had that can build onto something that can help other people. We all need to be willing to do that for one another, and to do it with an open mind and with calmness, and no judgment, right?
Yeah. Thank you for the kind words. That segues into something else. I'd love for you to kind of shill and pitch like what you're working on, because you told me about like some content you want to create and just, share your wealth. So tell a little bit about your podcast or whatever all you're going to be doing. I thought it sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, actually, the idea came to me a couple years ago. So, I have a buddy of mine who I went to high school with, and randomly, I was just hanging out one night, and I hit him up, and I thought he had a really cool perspective, and I have kind of my own unique perspective that I bring to things, and we were just kind of riffing together and just talking a little bit about possibilities, and ended up landing on this idea for like a podcast and like a YouTube channel, and creating content. Um, and we started up on it, but both of us kind of went our separate ways. We happened to both be planning a wedding that year, and obviously life has progressed, but um, I really liked the idea. And I am in this position where like I'm in fight mode in every kind of way. And I feel like this experience this last year has really just kind of taken the cuffs off, and it's made me um, super motivated, just really do everything I possibly can. And so I decided to get back into it, and take it seriously and get myself set up to get it started. And so Lazy Millennial. is going to be the channel and the podcast that I'm going to be launching. And it's really just built on the foundation of a generation of people that are in a situation right now where we're up. You know, we've been on deck, we've been taking our practice swings, you know, and in doing so, I think that there's been a stigma built around our generation that we're all lazy and that nobody wants to work hard. But I don't think there is a generation more prepared for that challenge than the millennials. And so I just kind of want to take my experience of life in general and provide some perspective for a generation that I feel like is craving some real honest information, you know, and guidance overall on how we can make this thing happen.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. And I hope we can have more conversations like this and even dig into deeper topics in the future. I feel like the perspective you've always shared with me has been good. Like, you know me, like my mind, it moves pretty quick. I often feel like when I catch myself just kind of rambling, because I'm working on, you know, being a better articulator, being a better writer. And I catch myself just kind of going. But I know there's a lot of good info there, because when I can connect with people one-on-one, it tends to lead to like really good conversations and relationships. And I hope we can talk to each other more about, you know, topics like this in the future, and, you know, connect and, you know, do some stuff to really help people. But it was fun chatting, man. Thanks for taking a little time over lunch and spending some time with me and sharing some of your thoughts with the folks.
Always, man. It's my pleasure. You're one of my favorite people to talk to in the whole world, man. So I could do this all day long.
Yeah, dude. One day we'll have to do one of those long form 4-hour ones and see if we can talk without going to the bathroom as long as Joe Rogan can.
Exactly, right? Yeah, definitely. We'll do it. We'll do a Kanye Joe Rogan moment.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, have a great rest of your day, and we'll connect again soon.
Absolutely, my man. You too. What's
All right,
up?
man. Bye.